If you played Longsword, you probably already know what this video is about. It's been almost 5 months since Monster Hunter Wilds released, and nobody fixed the input delay issue on Longsword. As I already shown in my past video, almost all the actions have some noticeable input delay, some more, some less, and Iai Spirit Slash is that one move that suffers the most because it requires the most accurate timing to execute, as it is a very precise counter with a 200 milliseconds window. In my past video I already talked about this problem, but today I want to add more details and cover a specific point that I overlooked. The user LaneandTheLink wrote an interesting comment, explaining why some moves might have added delays. The main point is these so-called chorded inputs, a specific category of inputs that has more buffer time because the game waits to see if you register another input to perform a multi-button action, for example a Spirit Thrust with R2 plus triangle. This input buffer is essential to perform a multi-button action so you can still comfortably do it without pressing the buttons frame perfect. The game, as I already showed in my previous video, is capable of reading the input without any noticeable input buffer, basically instantly, like when you draw the blade with the Spirit Blade first using R2, or for sheathing using the square button. But when it comes to other moves, the game must wait some frames to check if other inputs get registered before processing the action. It is the case for any action performed with triangle and circle, since the game must wait to see if you press R2 and do other actions or not. This input buffer lasts 3 frames at 60 FPS, which is 50 milliseconds, and it is not noticeable by most players. The existence of this input buffer makes complete sense, but its sole existence is not the issue about Longsword in Monster Hunter Wilds. It is pretty clear that we need to have some input buffer on the great majority of actions, since the game must wait to see if we want to press another button shortly after to perform a Spirit Thrust, a Foresight Slash, or a Special Sheathe. However, the problem relies on the duration of such buffer. If these chorded inputs should have this buffer of 3 frames, which is around 50 milliseconds at 60 FPS, then why do these chorded inputs actually have different buffer time? The game waits 3 frames before I can perform a Spirit Thrust with R2 plus triangle. I can perform R2 before and then triangle or the opposite, and the game would still register both inputs together, so it makes sense the game waits those 3 frames. But why does it wait 4 frames for a Foresight Slash with R2 plus circle and not 3 like the Spirit Thrust? And why does it wait 7 whole frames, which is about 116 milliseconds, to perform a Special Sheath with R2 plus X? Why did we go from 50 milliseconds or 3 frames up to 116 milliseconds or 7 frames? Why does the input buffer change in the first place? If 3 frames of input buffer are comfortable enough for any player to perform a multi-button action like the Spirit Thrust without having to press the button frame perfect, then why does the game wait 7 frames for another multi-button action like the Special Sheath? Why a Fate Slash input buffer is 3 frames and not 7 frames like the Special Sheath, even though it's supposed to be a chorded input action with triangle plus circle? Let's take another example. After you do a Helm Breaker, you can choose to follow it up with a Spirit Release Slash by pressing R2, a Special Sheath by pressing R2 plus X, and a Foresight Slash by pressing R2 plus circle. Why does the first action have 7 frames of input buffer, the second 4, and the third again 7? Why do we have different buffer time? If 3 frames of input buffer is enough as we saw for the Fate Slash or the Spirit Thrust, then any longer delay is just unnecessary. But there is something even more puzzling that I want to cover. If you play with another weapon like the dual blades or the hammer, and you press X to dodge, you do it at frame 1 every single time. If you do it with a longsword, it's 7 frames. Are you surprised? Some of you might argue, oh, but maybe it's because longsword can perform other actions with X while hammer and dual blades don't. So the game must wait to see which other button you press, or in other words, there is an added input buffer because it's a chorded input. However, that would be false. Longsword cannot do any action with X in idle, except for the roll. If you want to perform a Special Sheath, you need to do an attack first. You can't do it without doing anything first. So the game actually is not waiting for anything at all when you press X in idle, but the input buffer is still there, and it's 7 frames, which is around 116 milliseconds. But the crazy part is that it doesn't matter if you have the weapon drawn or not. The input delay on the roll is the same, 7 frames. Other weapons just roll instantly, but Longsword does it delayed because of this no-sense input buffer. Is this an oversight or is it intentional? And why would Capcom add a 7 frames delay on the roll if you use a longsword, but just 1 frame for the other weapons like dual blades? It's like you can be precise and dodge a monster attack immediately with other weapons, but if you play longsword you have to roll 7 frames in advance. This must be resolved. But the biggest issue I have is the input buffer on the Iai Spirit Slash. Sure enough, after a Special Sheath, there are only 2 actions available, Iai Slash by pressing triangle and Iai Spirit Slash by pressing R2. These are not multi-button actions, so there should be no input buffer here because they are not chorded input actions, and the game must not wait for any additional input, right? Wrong. The game pauses the input for 7 frames before you can perform the Iai Spirit Slash. But why? On certain actions like a Special Sheath or Spirit Blade attack, you may not feel this delay as the actions don't need to be timed, but when it comes to a counter move, you have to be very precise, and a few frames can make a huge difference. You cannot give an input buffer of 50% of the iframes of Iai Spirit Slash. It's a crime. You have 200 milliseconds to counter successfully, but you have 116 milliseconds of added delay. And I want to highlight that this delay is added to the existing system latency of your monitor, controller, computer or console, so the overall delay is higher, of course. The input buffer on the Iai Spirit Slash should not be there at all. This added delay or input buffer, no matter how you call it, is the reason why even though you press correctly R2 to perform a Iai Spirit Slash with the right timing, the game processes the input late because it pauses it for 7 frames, and so you end up hit by the monster before you can perform the counter. Look at these examples. I want to do a Iai Spirit Slash on Lagercruz Ultimate. I press R2 before the thunder explosion appears, the game reads my input but still waits 7 frames to process the action, resulting in my character getting hit. The same thing happens on Sergio's diving attack. I press R2 before the monster lands, the game registers the input but it pauses it for 7 frames and my character gets hit. Again, the same with Mizuzune's Roar. I press R2 before the monster roars, yet the game waits 7 frames after reading the input. My character once again can't perform the Iai Spirit Slash. I could continue forever. This happens on all monsters in any map. It's really bad. No, it's not you who don't know how to counter anymore in this game, but it's the game that doesn't perform the action when it reads your inputs, because it waits 7 additional frames before processing the action. I talked about Longsword's input delay for the first time on March 22nd, and the situation didn't change in the slightest in 5 months. Some PC players may be fine with that because they just go Nexus mod, download the input delay removal on the Iai Spirit Slash and call it a day. This mod has been available since day 1, so if Capcom didn't fix this issue, they must not consider it a priority, or they don't even consider it an issue in the first place, or they actually intentionally put it there. I really can't find any other reason. So what's the conclusion? I can't do anything, guys. Alone, I'm not gonna be able to change anything, unfortunately. I need your help to get this issue fixed once and for all. They won't listen to me alone, but they will have to listen to the Longsword player community. And that's why I'm asking you to help me mass report this issue through the official Capcom contact form on their official website. This is the only way we have to make our voice loud and clear. Please, every one of you who is watching this video, lend me your hand. Together, our voices can reach Capcom and put an end to this. You just need to go to their website and fill the form. First, you need to agree to their terms and conditions, then you select non-network related issues or technical difficulties, select your region, your platform, and all the info they ask for. Where it's written where the issue occurred, select always occurs at the same scene timing, and under how frequently does the issue occur, select always. Leave the error code blank, put your hunter ID, and in the description section write a brief explanation of the issue and put the link of this video. Check the description of this video to check what exactly wrote to help them address the issue. You can also just copy-paste if you prefer. Click on confirm details and finally send it. The link to this contact form is in the description as well. This is the only way we have to address this issue properly. Together we have the power to make this change. Let's do it, hunters! Thank you for watching this video. If you want to help us, spread the word with other people and fill the contact form to report this issue. And that's all from me today. I wish you a good day and take care.